What's up, YouTube? Welcome to the Counting Wisdom podcast. Um, I think one prayer that we can pray in the last days is to have courage. I think sometimes our fears are rooted in thoughts of dying, maybe being shot, being stabbed, being in a car accident, being on a plane and it falls to the ground, different things like that. Or it could be, health wise, maybe getting sick in some way and dying. And so I think, God wants us to be courageous. And I think that's what we have to pray the prayer for, is to be courageous. And it's not that we, shouldn't do things that are safety, like, putting our seatbelt on when we're driving, or driving in a, safe manner, not getting on a plane that is, prone to problems, taking different safety precautions, not to say you shouldn't, defend yourself if you are in some sort of situation where you need to defend yourself. We should do those things. But I think also, when Paul said that, God has not given us a spirit of fear, it's a spirit that can come over us that, makes us fear, and it makes us become afraid. And I think that's one thing that we have to guard against, especially in these last days. We can really be afraid to do a lot of things. Maybe we are afraid to share our faith. Maybe we are afraid to, tell people we follow Jesus. Maybe we are afraid to sort of, go out into public and, different fears that I think we can have. And so I think definitely getting wisdom on the topic of fear, I think, is something good to do as well. I think pushing past our fears in some situations where, we just do what we need to do anyway, even though we can be afraid. But also, I think that's really the kind of, if you look up the definition of courage, it kind of encompasses, you may feel afraid, but you are still doing what you have to do anyway. You're still, doing the task at hand or whatever you're doing, and you're just, doing God's will or keeping His commandments or telling people about Jesus, even though you may feel a little bit of fear. Courage, I believe, involves, doing something even though you may feel afraid of it a little bit. But also, I think we can have victory over different things in this life, including fear, when we start to pray about it. I think, starting to, ask God to help us, asking Jesus to help us. Jesus wasn't fearful, and He showed courage going to the cross, even when He sort of displayed some of the characteristics of fear in the Garden of Gethsemane. He started sweating drops of blood. He, asked God to, let this cup pass from Him. And He said, God, if it's your will, please let this cup pass for me. But not my will, your will be done. And so Jesus went through with the cross. And I think sometimes we, even when we talk about, let's say if there was ever a scenario of us going to the cross, we would feel that fear and not do it. And I think what separates Jesus from us is that, He used the power of God and His love for God to do things that, he may have not necessarily wanted to do, or, it was kind of a fearful type of situation. Now, again, I do believe that we are called to use caution and take precautions, and, I think we are called to operate in safety. Hey, if your area has a lot of shark attacks in the water, in the ocean, then, taking precaution, and, it doesn't mean you shouldn't ever go swimming or go surfing, but you are doing things that, especially maybe an experienced surfer can give you advice on. Hey, this is what I did if I encountered a shark, and we take those people's advice. And I think that, the stories in the Bible give us understanding of, this is what an outcome can be if we do something exactly as, they did. We are called to, learn from the Bible and learn from different mistakes that people have made and choose the better option. That's why God told us the story of Adam and Eve. Not that we are trying to be better than Adam and Eve or better than those that came before us. No, but we're learning from their mistakes and trying our best to make, better choices, even though we may make our own mistakes along the way. And so, we also should learn from our past experiences. And I think sometimes that's even harder to do sometimes, is learning from the mistakes that we have personally made. I think a lot of us, it can take a while sometimes to learn how to do something differently. And, I notice in my life, being alive for 31 years, is that, sometimes it's hard to break a habit or, break some sort of thing that you're doing that may not be the safest way or the best way to do it. And so I think one prayer that we should pray in the last days is to have courage in the last days. I think the tribulation saints are saints that, they didn't come to faith. We assume that they didn't come to faith in Jesus Christ, and they missed the rapture. And so it's not only that they're having courage to not take the mark of the beast, but it's also they're kind of in a forced position of, hey, this is, the only choice that I have. And so I think, for us that believe in the pre-trib rapture, I think we need to have the courage to live for Jesus now. And I think many people need to have the courage to put their faith in Jesus Christ now, instead of sort of falling away because, maybe they're afraid of standing for Jesus, or, someone being mean to them in some way, shape, or form. One thing that I know that can be a little bit helpful, I know a lot of this, what I'm saying is, I think we need the power of God. I don't know if words can always solve some of these problems. Just talking about it and having wisdom about it or knowledge about it, I don't think that always is the case. Because I think we just need the power of God. We need God, Jesus Christ, to help us. But that being said, I think sometimes it can be helpful to think of, how maybe certain situations are just for a short period of time, and it's not necessarily a long-lasting time. For example, being shot, that's, God willing, if we were ever shot or something, it wouldn't be like a whole day event of where we're just all day we're being shot. It's a momentary little event that happens that, I think can be sometimes helpful in thinking about, certain situations are only for a short period of time and not necessarily, a long lasting time. And then also Jesus gave us a key in dealing with fear of men. He said, fear God, the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell, versus fearing men who cannot destroy both soul and body in hell. They don't have the power to put you in hell and torment you for all of eternity, and you being subject to that pain for all of eternity. And so when you think about maybe being shot or being in a car wreck, that's not an eternity type of thing. It's just a momentary thing. And so that can be helpful. I think also, straight up praying that we're not shot or stabbed or something like that. I think definitely, making sure we're using precaution in those types of situations, maybe not picking a fight or, turning the other cheek in certain situations. Jesus said, don't store up treasure for yourself here on this earth. Different things that Jesus gave us help in, but also, choosing to try our best. I don't know if we always get it right all the time, but trying our best to fear God rather than fearing people. And I know sometimes, there are certain areas, where I know that, maybe this area is prone to more rough people. And so I'm like, maybe I'll use caution in this particular area of town or this part of town. Chicago is one of those cities that I'm not necessarily going to avoid Chicago. Like, I would go there, but when I do go to Chicago, if I ever do go to Chicago, I know that that area is prone to, more crime than maybe another city or town. And so using precaution. And so anyway, I think one thing that we can ask Jesus for is to help us be courageous, but also help us to use, our wisdom and fear God rather than man, and get better at this. I know that there are certain situations that can spark fear, whether it be going to the doctor, going, to certain places, facing people. And so I'm not saying that I have it figured out, but I'm just, trying to give a biblical answer to some of this. And so thanks so much for checking this out. I think we all need to have our hope in God, and God can deliver us from every evil, like Paul said. And so thanks so much, and I will talk to you on the next one. See ya.